Hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast today. Today I'm joined by Laura Latina. Laura is a midwife, a compassionate inquiry practitioner and facilitator, and she also has created a beautiful program within CI called The Portal that I am currently enrolled in. So I'm learning and enjoying everything, and all of the knowledge that Laura has is just incredible. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. And hello, everyone.
Amazing. So we're going to talk today about birth.
Yes.
Will you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yes, I am a midwife uh, since 2008. I forgot how long. Yes, 2008. And I've been traveling a lot. So I always say this because I'm super grateful for this experience. I've been working in more than 10 countries. So in Africa, Asia, Middle East, and even in Europe, UK, Italy. And now I'm in Italy. And my passion is really to be there with women families for this transformative rite of passage that is the whole experience of parenthood, not just birth. Be there with compassion and love for the people that are involved in this big transformative event. And I'm passionate to be there with so much love and compassion and kindness because I really believe that every baby needs to come to this world with love, with kindness, with connection, and not with separation or trauma. And I think we are going to talk this now about what's happening in the world
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. So I'm really passionate about changing and challenging the narrative. What is normal nowadays that actually is not normal.
Yes.
And I'm really passionate about this. And I bring, I would say, the trauma informed perspective approach into into the birthing world, into the perinatal period.
Yeah, it's incredible. Midwives and doulas, that's our entire goal in birth is to
Yes.
be adding the emotional experience, adding the emotional support, the love, compassion, and just awe of the experience for people where it's become so medicalized and so fearful in so many ways,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that was always my hope as a doula. And every birth was like, how much influence can I have in this birth so that the mom and the baby aren't separated, that, the fewest interventions are happening to everyone so that in the spirit of increasing that love, increasing that connection, and having things go, as smoothly as possible in terms of the relationship, because we
Yeah.
know what happens in birth has a huge effect on mom's well-being, dad or partner's well-being, baby's well-being, and that nurturing connection that everyone's
Yeah.
expecting and needing.
Absolutely. And I want to add that this is forever. It's not
Yes.
just, you give birth and postpartum and that's all. It's forever. The experience of birthing, when I say the experience of birthing, I include also, pregnancy, conception, pregnancy, postpartum is forever.
Yes.
So, in my practice, I do birth debrief, even for women that gave birth 10 years before, because they've been so impacted and they never had the opportunity to tell their story.
Yeah.
And so the choices that we make for how we want to bring babies into this world has a huge impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so, so important. So if people are listening and they're pregnant, you do have, hope, not everywhere, of course, but if you have choice of who's going to support you in your birth and where you're going to birth, please, please take the time to look for
Yeah.
practitioners who have this philosophy. because we know, sadly, birth outcomes are in decline, both emotionally, physically, survival,
Yes.
even just down to survival. And this is how we're
Yeah.
going to fix it, right?
Yeah, we know that despite all these what we call technologies, they're not, the outcomes, maternal and newborn, are not great. But the medicalization is increasing. The outcomes are not improving. That birth trauma experiences and percentage rate of birth trauma is increasing, and we both advocate for solutions for this. And I think one of the most important is really to have personalized and continuity of care, so to have 1-2 professionals that for you are your own professional that knows you, and you can enter in a relationship, because at the end is the connection, the relationship that you establish, the fact that someone that that you feel safe with,
Mm-hmm.
enter your birthing space, enter your postpartum experience, and there is already a connection, a safety established there,
Yeah.
and an opportunity to be listened, to be understood, to open up to anything that is arising for you. And I think that's essential for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
I would wish that for everybody giving birth.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. Yeah.
people might expect their practitioner to be doing things that don't happen, and that's one part. So I think just being prepared to know you do have to, be working with someone who has this type of experience at top of their mind is so, so important.
Yeah, and the approach where this professional comes from, and feel free to say no if someone doesn't resonate with you. You don't have to say yes. You can say no and find someone else.
There's very, very likely someone in your town or city who's practicing this way, and you can
Yeah,
find them and work with
yeah,
them if you can. Yeah, I think that one big thing that came up for me was like when you say it lasts forever, the birth experience. I don't think people are expecting that. And it really does. It really does. And it's not surprising when we think about the science of it and the emotional
yeah,
parts of it. Like birth is such a huge physical, emotional, spiritual event. And those are the types of memories that take up the biggest space in our brains and our minds and transform us and who we are.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's written in our DNA, in our biology, in our limbic system. So the memory at nervous system level, when the baby, doesn't know like rationally, but he or she knows in the body. So, and it's a memory. Birth is a memory. It's imprinting in our cells.
mhm.
So we know we can reconnect, and birth impacts even our own attachment, our own behaviors, our memories, our triggers.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important, the choice that we make, how we are birthing, with whom, and after birth, not only birth, the whole
Absolutely. And we'll
experience.
talk about that because so many people listening probably did have, less than ideal or traumatic births. I've been to many hospital births. I've seen a lot of things go down that I would never wish for anyone to happen anytime, especially in birth. It also, when you were speaking, also brought up for me something that Gabor Mate taught us in the portal, or kind of shared with us an idea, was that doctors are not scientific enough when it comes to birth. And it's actually like midwives and doulas and a lot of other support people who really are being led the most strongly by the science, which is to have this emotional support to make birth feel safe and supported, increasing the oxytocin, which leads to the opening, which leads to the whole process going down, that unobserved, supported
Yeah.
birth. That is what
And
science
we
tells
know,
us is that what
yeah,
we need to end
it's
our humanity.
scientific. Yeah,
Yes.
it's scientific,
Yeah.
and we don't use this enough.
Yeah.
We know this by research, not only research and studies, but also by the experience and our biology. You
Yes.
know, the hormones and what happens if we are not our if oxytocin and endorphins are not circulating in the body during birth, and but we have more stress hormones, so we know what happens, that labor might interrupt, there might be more interference, etc. So we really need to work with our own body, not against. And sometimes what I found, in the hospital, not only in the hospital but especially in the hospital, that we work against our own body, um, and it's counterproductive. Many practices, they are counterproductive for women and babies and the whole family.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just even thinking of like the first thing I would ever do to get into a birth space in the hospital was dim the lights, put on a little
Yes.
candle, fake candle, and that alone made a huge difference.
Oh yeah. Not talking too loud, not saying anything, not controlling, not suggesting, but just be there. And sometimes as professional, what we have to do is just really work on ourselves and bite our tongue and to really be still in that space, because that's what we need most of the time. Just be still and support the birthing women, person,
Yeah,
whoever is birthing,
absolutely. So something that comes up in both in the portal and in the work that you and I do with moms in support groups. So for everyone listening, Laura and I are have been leading support groups for mothers for the past year, and we're going to continue that work. Something that comes up that is, I think, really surprising and both so interesting to people is to look at our own births.
Yes.
So you tell us a little bit about that. How, why is it important for us to understand how we were born?
Yeah, first of all, the thing that comes in my mind, and you said this before, is that we never tell our story, how we were born. We don't have many opportunities to tell our own stories, and until we tell our own story, the experience repeat itself, and repeat through patterns, through memories. And as I was saying before, it's an imprint. So we have an imprint from birth. It's a memory, and that will show up when we do things, when we create our babies too. And so we have an opportunity to understand, from cognitive level, but also emotional and body level, because we when we were fetus or newborn, we couldn't understand, but we knew in our body level what experience we were having, inside us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really to hold space for that little baby that is inside us, and reconnect and repair that experience, reconnect with that experience, and maybe recognize what we needed that we didn't receive.
Yeah.
That shows up in our life every day, and usually every rite of passage inform and impact other rite of passage, which is again birth. So if we are a woman and we want to birth children, our own experience, previous experience, especially our own birth, and the birth of the women in our family will impact our own birth. um, and so it's very important to, if we want to, if we are willing to really tell our own story, first of all, and reconnect with that part of us that sometimes is disconnected because maybe we were separated from our mother, maybe we were born before term, so we were put in an incubator, maybe our parents were not emotionally available and we didn't have that support and the love, and even if they wanted to do their best. So it's really to reconnect and repair, and that's an opportunity for healing for us, and really getting to know us more, and really if we are going into giving birth our own children, it's really an opportunity to before we do that, to repair and reclaim parts of ourselves. And I think for women that do that, I witness many women do that. It's such a huge healing opportunity for them. And for those ones that don't have an opportunity to do this exercise practice before birth, if you are pregnant or approaching birth, you can all do anytime, even postpartum, because what I see, and I don't know if you see the same, sometimes when we don't have or time or willingness to heal before birth, by being with a newborn, and in postpartum, sometimes it can become overwhelming, having a newborn with needs and our own needs. It becomes very overwhelming for some women. So that is when our group support group comes into so it's supportive for many women, the work that we do at nervous system level, but also with emotions, slowing down, opportunity really to listen, and to listen our other women that have similar story to yours, to us. So
I can't believe, and I think this is surprising to people in the group too, when we're sharing our own birth story, like how we were born or how we birthed our babies, how much healing happens when other people share, because we are all just so surprised at how much we have in common, even with completely different experiences. And I find that's always so surprising, both to me and to everybody in the group. It's such an incredible experience. So yeah, if anyone is curious, even to start today, they can do some inquiry, ask your mom or dad or family members, anyone who might know a little bit about your birth story, and start to get curious about it, because it could be interesting. I feel like so many people are interested in knowing themselves and exploring so many parts. Birth is the place to start.
Yes, and everything is connected. Your own birth is connected with how you live your life and how you birth your own children, your postpartum, everything. Many women in postpartum, they feel fragile, and it's an opportunity to encounter their own inner child, and because their newborn mirror that to them. So it's really important to not forget where we come from, and who we are. And I think, yes, starting from birth, it's an amazing opportunity for healing. And sometimes when I do sessions with women, and they want to debrief, for example, their birth story or their own, childbirth, it's never the childbirth itself. It always go back to before, to the childhood. Maybe they had this belief that they are not worthy, so, or they are alone, and that is what they manifest for their birth, but not with the saying, I don't want to, make anyone feel, bad saying by saying this, but it's just that we create who we are. We create our own reality by bringing who we are. So that's important. That's why it's important to look at ourselves, listen to ourselves, understanding ourselves, and have support.
Absolutely. And the other big place that we look in this work is our birth story, how we gave birth, right? And so that we do a deep dive of that in our group. Tell us why. I'm sure this could go on forever and ever because it's huge. But again, it's popping up everywhere. I just recorded interviews for my upcoming retreat, and so many of the speakers were like, you have to tell your child's birth story. You have to it's the beginning of everything. So, tell us a few reasons why it's important for us to tell the stories of how we gave birth.
Yeah, for the same reason I said before, that if we don't have the opportunity to tell how our children, were born, and even for our children to tell their story, then there is a kind of reactivation of that memory every time we do something in our life. We create, for example, if we create a project, I can give an example, personal example. Every time I create a project, I have this tendency of give up, because I don't believe in myself anymore. And I was born through C-section. And I know that at some point I needed to be saved was by someone. Yeah. And my birth stories tell me a story that I'm not good enough, because I didn't complete the action of being born through the vaginal canal, to the birth canal. So and I have these patterns all the time, every time I create, every time I do a project. So until I told my story and I really helped myself, and I went back to the moment when I had this feeling of giving up, this belief of giving up. And so by reconnecting with that, by telling the story, reconnecting with that part of me, I I I had the opportunity to reconnect with myself. But this is the definition of trauma. Trauma is a disconnection, and we heal when there is a reconnection, when we connect with ourselves. And yeah, so it's very important to tell our story and the story of our children, because it's an opportunity for healing and connection.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to add anything, by witnessing our postpartum group.
For sure. Yeah. I think, so many of the people I worked with as in a doula scope, and so many of the mothers who are in our circle, they're coming with a lot to unpack about their birth, right? You mentioned the statistics are really high of how much trauma, how much, PTSD even people are experiencing from birth these days. And so, a lot of the women are coming with births that maybe they were ideal in some ways, but there was aspects of them that were less than ideal. And some people are coming with extremely traumatic birth experiences, and our awareness can change as well when we talk about it and share it. And so so few mothers, unless they do have a doula, midwife, or supportive person around, they are not even telling their basic birth story to anybody after it happens. It's like, I survived, baby survived, done.
That's all. I go back home and that's all. I have a baby, I have
and it's fast, right? Everything's fast. It's like your adrenaline's going, you're feeding, you're changing, you're organizing diaper, you're just going and going. living in the aftermath of what happened in birth.
Yeah.
And without that
And
experience.
I also want to add that, it's important when you are in a group that you hear other stories and you realize you are not alone.
Yes.
Because many mothers believe that they are alone with their experience.
Yes. And a lot of
And
people
that,
actually said in our group, being in the group was that first time of not feeling alone as a mother, even if they were surrounded by mothers in their real life, because in real life, people weren't slowing down. And someone used the words like, no one was talking about anything real.
yes.
And our group gave that opportunity for that to happen, which was so impactful for everyone.
Yeah, be real, be authentic as you are, and sharing very deep emotions, and have other people holding you through this experience with no judgment but with love and compassion. I think that's the healing, rewiring, our brain, for connection and healing. This is our objective.
Yeah. And at the end of every group, I get so overwhelmed with, just love and joy and amazement at what's happened. I feel like the people are totally transformed. I always say we need to take a picture of everyone before and after, because they are different people after. They describe it too. We'll share that in other places. But it is so transformative. And I see, and I've expressed this before, it is what mothers need. We need a lot of things, but I feel like gathering in a group like this, looking at our own birth story, looking at our baby's birth story, slowing down, learning to connect, learning our triggers, learning about our nervous system is essential. It's essential. It's like we found a secret. We found, something that really every single mother needs. And that excites me so much when we finish.
Yeah, and then we have many practices that people can use when they want, to ground, to anchor down, about boundaries, about yeses and nos, about
Our
needs.
needs.
So we look at all of these because, when we are fast, as you were saying, or when we don't have opportunities to connect with others, to tell our own stories, to share emotions, to share the reality of being a mother, sometimes it feels like you need to shut up and suck it all in, and and you don't have the opportunity to share and reconnect. So I think it's very important to have a group, any group, even if online maybe it's not your thing. Maybe, well, go and connect with some group in presence, because groups of mothers that resonate with your experience. um and I want to add that we lost this because we were used, and in some community, in some tribes, in some indigenous community, no, this is normal to have a community behind your back that is there for you. It's not normal to be alone.
It's a missing
As a
piece for
mother.
people, for sure. So many moms also express to me, like, I need to be loved and I need to be mothered during this time, postpartum. And this is an opportunity for that too. Being in group, being in community, like you described, that's essential. That's essential for us.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, if anyone is interested in learning more, we're going to post a link to join our next group. We're going to post links to explore more about how our births impact us, how our children's births impact us and our relationships, and our ability to nurture ourselves and nurture our babies, because it is a really important first step to get there. So thank you Thank you for being here,
Thank
Laura. It's so
you.
good to see you. And yeah, stay tuned for more.
More.
We'll have you back.